Ever since the medium's conception, video games have been targeted by the media as a negative on society. Different news outlets find problems in our society that is on our society alone, and they pin it on video games, even if the problems have no correlation with the medium. Despite games having the same First Amendment rights as books, television shows, and movies, news sources and websites continue attacking the medium with no base to stand on. Most of the facts they use are either outdated, intentionally leave out evidence pointing away from their desired answer to the question, or are entirely opinion-based with nothing to stand by. The video gaming industry has shown that it has a positive effect on society through artistic expression, and has proven it is responsive and can regulate itself when it comes to the rating system, and it has been the target of needless, lazily researched media bias. It all began back when the media began gaining traction. While games like Pong and Tetris were simple games that helped pass the time, the medium evolved just like any other. Soon games grew to be more expansive and became a mainstay in homes through the use of consoles. Of course, that came with the push from the media. Pokemon Red and Blue made the news when it first came out in 1996, when Christians all around America claimed that the game was promoting satanic views and animal abuse. Mortal Kombat, released in 1992, sparked further controversy when it came to light that the game had finisher moves known as fatalities that could be performed on the losing player of the game. What would result was a graphic, at least by that time standards for games, attack on the enemy character. News articles immediately came out how the game was not suitable for children, which was a valid response. But the video game industry reacted accordingly and created the ESRB. The ESRB is the game's rating board, which dictates whether a game is suitable for all audiences, younger teens and older, or for mature audiences. Despite the ESRB's conception proving that the game industry was regulating who could access which games for what content, backlash continued. Beginning in the 2000s, Hillary Clinton began championing her anti-video game cause.
Violent video games increase aggressive behavior as much as lead exposure decreases children's IQ scores.
That doesn't make sense.
The attention her claims drew from both fans of games and psychologists who ran experiments detailing the opposite was unprecedented, inspiring Fox News to jump in on the conversation. They launched a smear campaign to this running day on video games, starting on the game Mass Effect, released in 2007. Fox claimed that the game was explicitly pornographic because of the optional sex scenes that would come up between the main character and their potential love interest. These claims are proven false, however, by anyone who has actually played the game. Most nudity besides the chest is tastefully censored, and it's nothing worse than you would find in a modern-day romance movie. After these times, when video games were being taken seriously as a storytelling medium, and all the big outlets found that they could exploit them for a quick buck, people clung to their excuses and arguments despite the evidence. Glenn Beck even tried to claim that the Sandy Hook shooting was caused by some kid playing violent video games.
Let me show you the story that while all of this gun control talk is going on, no one is standing on. CBS News has reported, but then it just disappeared, that the guy who was the shooter and the killer in the Sandy Hook massacre had, quote, a trove of violent video games and would actually black out his game room, so the only reality in the room was his TV screen.
Oh no, he turned off the lights. What a monster. Anyone who turns off the lights and plays video games, bound to be a murderer. It's not like people turn off their lights to immerse themselves in what they're watching or playing so that they can become more invested in it without any outside distractions. It's not like movie theaters turn their lights off when the film is playing for the same reason. Nah, I saw John Wick and I was perfectly fine. But the moment those lights went off, whew boy, you should have seen it. Everyone in the room turned into a ninja. The main argument that Fox News, anti-video game activists, and now even Donald Trump usually use is that video games are the cause of various mass shootings and acts of violence. This could not be further from the truth, however. Science Daily, Psychology Today, and PubMed.gov all have evidence through their credited studies that video games do not cause any aggression when played, neither among those older or younger, no matter if the game they played was realistic or cartoony in nature. They even called out the sources that Clinton and Fox News used to prove that they were purposely omitting evidence from their research that would prove that their findings of video game violence wrong. The arguments of those who believe games cause violence are completely baseless. Something else that these sources cling onto is that games are just all about violence. They're all about killing things in brutal ways and reward you so that it can warp your mind. And yes, some games are brutal, and a lot of media portrays violence as a brutal thing. But that's okay. Violence is used to tell stories. While some stories can be told without violence, there are many, if not most, that would completely lose their message if violence was taken out of the equation. 2016's Doom is a violent game that probably can't be shown on screen here with just how brutal it is, so only a screenshot will be displayed. But it isn't just for quick laughs or big over-the-top moments, though the latter happens often. It's to drive home the message later in the story that the demons the player fights throughout the game were merely acting on instinct, while the big corporation in the game was exploiting their world for resources, which can even be used as a broad comparison to things like how the colonists first settling in the United States exploited the Native Americans and used their fighting back to justify them being looked on as savages for the benefit of money and power. Some games do feature violence but still drives home the message of peace. One of my favorite games of all time, Undertale, can have you go through an entire playthrough without killing anyone, though you are given the choice. It promotes a message of pacifism using its gameplay and characters, and tells the story of someone showing compassion and mercy to those who might not even deserve it sometimes, but shows that it is ultimately the right thing to do. Some games don't even feature violence at all. Journey, Abzu, Portal, Slime Rancher, Stardew Valley, all these games that I listed off the top of my head don't even give you an option to kill. You instead are given the objective of solving a puzzle to move along the story, or to make friends in a farming community. Despite these games existing and these messages being implemented into the story, the White House itself has went and put their 2 cents on the issue. It's the same old stuff. Violence in video games creates violence in real life. They even made a montage of violent moments in games out of context. I won't even go into the fact that the discussion following that video up between the White House and the representatives of the industry did not go in the White House's favor. And I won't even go into the fact that they were completely leaving out story-crucial moments that led up to those parts of the videos. Instead, I will go over the fact that as easily as the White House made this video out of context, I can just as easily make a video of the quiet, serene, and peaceful moments in video games. Relaxing moments that really show how beautiful some of the art can be, how a lot of talent and passion shines through these projects, and why exactly people play these games. I can't, I'm on a bit of a deadline, but you can find a lot of these montages just with a quick Google search. The truth is that the school shooting problem, the gun violence problem, the gang problems, none of those are a video game problem. The UK, Australia, the EU, and even more countries all have access to these games. They have the same access to the same content as everyone else in the world. But the matter of the fact is that they do not experience violence anywhere near the rate that we do. This is not a video game problem. This is an American problem. And associations like Fox, the NRA, and Hillary Clinton want you to think otherwise so that they can keep making their money. Video games are a valid medium of artistic expression. No matter how much the media outlets try to devalue what they mean to society, they will never be able to prove that video games are a detriment to society. They are just as essential to the entertainment industry as books, movies, and television. Despite the evidence supporting the game industry, many of those with the opposing mindset continue to attack them as an art form in order to further their own agenda or views. They use these tactics on those who are not educated on the industry to alleviate blame on the real causes of issues so that their sources of profit and support are not taking the fall. However, if you see someone that is blaming video games because they heard it on Fox News, therefore it must be true. Just take the time to try to educate them. They probably don't really know much better because they don't know anything about the industry or haven't seen the actual proof that supports games in this case. Not many people, especially the older generation, understand these things, and it's okay to let them know that they are wrong if they can recognize that. As long as there are people that are educated, there should be enough vigilance to refute these arguments on site against such ridiculous claims. Go ahead and spread the word if you really need to. But just know that when sources try to blame things on video games that have absolutely nothing to do with them, they're not looking to make sure that people are aware of the horrible things that their children may be witnessing on the pixels on their screen. They're just looking to make a quick buck out of you.